Have you been struggling trying to figure out how to make your meal planning routine work? How to make it flow smoothly, stay consistent, and not be overwhelming? There are so many ways that we can customize our meal planning routines. So, today we're going to cover some of those options, and hopefully, it will help you figure out what might work best for you in your home.
Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renae Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage Podcast.
Meal planning can be a beast in our homes. It's one of those things that we can't get away from. We have to eat. We have to keep feeding our families. We can't just ignore this responsibility, but it doesn't have to be as daunting as it can feel sometimes. And I think the biggest thing that will help you is making sure you're planning ahead, because one of the biggest struggles that I had when it came to my meal planning routine was that I was just waiting for the end of the night. Like, my meal planning routine years ago consisted of just like creating a list of all the things that I thought we needed, not necessarily putting together what we actually were going to cook, but just to get the ingredients that I thought that we used often enough. And sometimes we would end up with doubles or triples of certain things because I thought we needed some more of it, but we weren't out yet, and then we wouldn't have what we actually needed to put a meal together. So I would do a grocery shopping haul. We would get things that I thought we needed to resupply. And then when we would actually go to cook something, usually trying to figure out what we were cooking that night because we didn't think ahead. So after work, we would get into the kitchen and we would start trying to figure out what we were going to make, and then trying to figure out if we even had all of the ingredients to make it. A lot of times we still had meat in the freezer that needed to thaw, so that we had just solid frozen meat. And so we would have to either try and figure out how to quickly thaw that, or go to the store and get new stuff and spend more money on stuff that we already had at home. It just wasn't prepared well enough in advance because we didn't think that far ahead. We'd have to go pick up ingredients for the things that we were still missing for that. And then this would just repeat on a cycle, night after night after night after night. And it was frustrating. So sometimes we would not have to go to the store, but there were often times where we were going to the store multiple times a week. And I was like, this has to change. So when we started putting our meal planning routine into place, we tried so many different things. There were so many different, methods and different calendars and all sorts of things that we were trying to figure out. And the meal planning method that I share on this podcast with you is the one that has stuck for years. And I absolutely love it. And I think the key to it is that it is simple. It is incredibly simple, almost stupid simple, because it's so easy to keep up with and stay consistent with, because there isn't this extravagant method to being able to stick with it. So I think that is the first key that you need to have in place. If you are struggling with your meal planning routine, you need to have a foundation. You need to have that super simple default routine before anything else comes into play. And I will help you build that. Like, that is what I talk about here on this podcast. So if you go back to episode 4, and that is your 12 steps for an easy meal planning routine to save time and money, and then you go to episode 47, and this is where you use my step by step meal planning routine and just make it your own. So, this is where you have the base, you have that foundational default routine. That is what you can focus on. When anything else goes crazy, you can just focus on the simple part of your routine. Now, beyond that, you can customize it however you want. And that's the cool part about having your own routine and being able to tweak it based on your life. So that will help you, going back to those episodes, that will help you build the routine. I also cover this in my blueprint if you want to go to reneematt.com/blueprint, and that will help you. It's your organized life blueprint, and it helps you build the 5 foundational routines, in which the meal planning routine is one of them. So you want to really get that foundational routine set. And then we're going to go over 9 ideas to help you customize your meal planning routine beyond the foundational routine. So there are so many ways you can customize your meal planning routine and make it work best for you and your lifestyle. You can test and you can tweak and you can mix and you can match and you can do so many different things with your meal planning routine. But I just want to reiterate that you always can fall back on your default routine because it is so simple. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So, your first idea is to just stick with it and just keep it simple. So, it's just planning your week of meals with your wall calendar, creating your weekly grocery list, getting your shopping done, and then coming home and prepping your produce before putting it in the fridge. That is your basic routine. And if you want to keep your meal planning routine simple and you don't want to go all out and create all these other different methods and add to it and customize it and tweak it, you don't have to. You can just keep it simple. That is perfectly fine. And if that is the method that works best for you, then you can stick to it without any reservations. The second idea is to order online for your groceries using like Instacart or even grocery pickup. So if you don't want to go into the grocery store or you don't have time, or if it's like an impulse thing, maybe utilizing something like Instacart or grocery pickup is going to work best for you. And that can be something that you pull into your meal planning routine to make it work for you. You would still go through the same methods of creating your plan for the week, creating your list, and then plugging it into your app. Not only can you see like how much is this going to cost ahead of time and all of that, but you have the ability to really like review your list, make sure everything that is on it that you have. I I do like using Instacart in certain cases, but I actually like going into the grocery store. I prefer going into the grocery store because then I can pick out my own produce. I can actually like visually see everything, and I also like looking at prices of things. And I feel like you end up spending a little bit less in the store if you are in control of impulses, but it is time consuming to go into the grocery store. So if you can place an online order and then just go pick it up or have it delivered right to your house, that is definitely an option for you to utilize and pull into your meal planning routine. And you can still continue with the rest of it. The idea number 3 is when you are planning out your meals to use themed meal nights. A lot of people do this. We don't personally use this, but a lot of people do it with success. Like they love it because it makes meal planning super easy. So when you're planning out your meals for the week, like an example of this might be that you do Mexican on Mondays. So on Mondays, you can do tacos, you can do enchiladas, you can do anything you want. You can do burritos, you can do whatever you want Mexican style on Monday. You could do crock pot meals on Tuesday. Maybe you have a busy Tuesday night. You've got a lot of things going on. You've got kids in sports. You've got plans. Whatever you're going on Tuesday. Maybe it's a busy day and you just plan crock pot meals for every Tuesday. On Wednesdays, you might just do salads. Maybe you do a big grilled chicken salad or any kind of salad that is on your list of ideas to try. That is what you do on Wednesdays. And then maybe pasta on Thursdays. You can do any kind of pasta. And then Fridays is reserved for date nights. You can do whatever you want, but you're going out for date night on Friday. And then pizza on Saturdays and any kind of soup on Sunday. Like you can have these themes and then just pick from the theme and keep using variety within that theme, or you can just keep it super simple and repeat the same thing over the week. You can do whatever works for you. Number 4 is to just focus on a chop once method. So this is keeping your default foundational routine, keeping it super simple, but then as you are cooking throughout the week, you focus on a chop once method. So if you're chopping onions on Monday for your dinner, then you kind of look ahead for the rest of the week and think, I'm going to chop extra onions and have chopped onions and just chop a bunch at once. So you're really only chopping once throughout the week for onions. And then the next night, maybe you're chopping lettuce for something, and then you chop extra to last you the rest of the week. So you don't have to keep pulling these things out of the fridge every time you need them because you've already prepped it because you needed it once already. We actually just recently did this because we went to a cabin and I was trying to prep a bunch of things there because we were going to be cooking on our own. We weren't going out anywhere. We were going to do it all at the cabin. And I just grabbed mason jars and I chopped a bunch of onions and I filled a mason jar with onions. I filled a mason jar with chopped mushrooms. And I just prepped a lot of these things ahead of time. I had a big thing of lettuce coming with us and a thing of washed berries in our produce prep containers. Like all of these things I had prepped and we just packed them up and brought them with us. And we were able to just cook without having to do any of that chopping while we were there because we didn't want to take time away from just enjoying the cabin. And we ended up having leftover. So we brought it home with us and put it back in the fridge. And I was able to use that for several more meals because I was just dumping onions. We had like stir fried green beans and I was dumping onions in there. We ended up making some like ground turkey, like stir fry, and I threw some the onions and mushrooms in that. So there were all sorts of things that we were able to use them for. And we just kept using them throughout the week. And I love having those things prepped and handy because it just makes things easier and it makes cooking faster. It makes cleanup so much easier. And I just love doing the chop once method. That is something we do utilize. Idea number 5 is to focus on making doubled meals or doubled ingredients. So, what I mean by this is that when you are cooking something, think about if it would be good to either use as another meal later on in the week or to throw it in the freezer and have it as an like on hand meal later on. So, this could be something like soup. If you have soup, make extra soup because soups freeze beautifully and they're so handy. You can either freeze them in one big, like Ziploc bag and then throw it in the freezer and then just thaw it the night before and then heat it up when it's time. You can put it in individual containers and have just single serving soups when you need them. There are options. You can do chili, you can do lasagnas, you can do anything that you are making that could be doubled. If you're making homemade pizza, like you can make extra. It's basically the same work. It's not much more work to make extra of what you're making. And then you have a completely ready made meal already ready to go and in your freezer so that you can grab it when you have a busy night or you just need a quick thing to throw in the oven and you're set. So that is something that you can utilize very easily. So you just focus on doubling up anytime you cook something or something that is freezable. The other thing that you can focus on here is doubled ingredients. So it might not be the entire meal, but it might be just a specific ingredient. So not just like the chop once method, but it's kind of similar, but it's like if you're cooking something. So if you are doing grilled chicken for dinner, you could focus on grilling extra chicken and putting it away before it's even served so that it doesn't get eaten up. And you can put that grilled chicken away and you can throw it in the freezer for future things. You can shred it, you can chop it up for later in the week. You can do whatever you have on your calendar or freeze it for something quick and easy so that you don't have to pre-cook chicken later on and you have cooked chicken ready to go. And starting to bring these types of habits into your meal planning process makes things just so much easier and they flow smoother. And you will find that you just get used to doing this without even thinking about it because it just becomes something that you are automatically doing, and your meal planning habits will become more seamless and less stressful. So, idea number 6 is to prep quick go-to lunches or snacks. So when you're getting home from the grocery store, this is just prepping lunches and snacks for the week so that you don't have to worry about them later on. So this might look like prepping salad ingredients. So maybe you're actually making the salads themselves. Like there are a lot of posts about like jar salads where you layer everything in and you just dump it out and you've got a pre-made salad ready to go. You could do just salad ingredients where you have everything chopped. You've got your lettuce chopped and clean. You've got peppers and onions and broccoli and cauliflower and mushrooms and whatever you put on your salad. There's so many different things you put on your salad. You can do shredded carrots. You can do strawberries. You can do everything on a salad. So prepping these ingredients and having them in your fridge so that you can throw together your own salad really quickly for lunch. You could prep a dense bean salad. We've been doing a dense bean salad that has been so nice to have on hand. You put in chickpeas and white beans, cannellini beans, and it's peppers and red onion, parsley. And I've been making it a little bit more Mediterranean style. So I've been adding artichokes and Kalamata olives, pepperoncini peppers, and just making that like mix of salad. And then we added like olive oil and lime or lemon juice. There's just different ingredients, but you can kind of get the idea. It's just this big dense bean salad and it lasts for so long in the fridge and you can just eat it with a fork or you can scoop it up with like a hearty potato chip, whatever you want to do. And having those quick go-to things, maybe you're prepping oatmeal energy bites or some sort of granola bar or granola, you can do things like this so that you have all of your lunches and snacks prepped, and that's what you're focusing on when you get home with your groceries. So there are different ways to do this. Idea number 7 is to batch cook freezer meals. So this is a little bit different than, doubling up your meals as you're cooking and then putting them in the freezer. This is focusing specifically on freezer meals. So you're gathering ingredients and you are putting things into Ziploc bags uncooked. Like you're just putting raw ingredients in them. Most of the time, freezer meals will be like a crock pot meal or like a lasagna or something like a casserole that you can freeze in its pan. So, batch cooking freezer meals is basically prepping a bunch of meals at once and then storing them in the freezer. And I have done this in the past and it does work really well. We don't do it anymore. And every once in a while, I will batch something and put it in the freezer, but we've focused mostly on doubling up, but this does work really, really well for a lot of people, especially if you have a busy lifestyle where you don't really have the time to be cooking anything when you get home. You take one day and you just prep all these meals for the month or the week or 3 months, whatever you want to do. And you prep everything, you get it into the freezer, and then you just pull one out the night before or whatever instructions you have on it. Typically, you're throwing it in the crock pot before you leave in the morning, and then you're set to go. So this could be something that you use in your meal planning routine is to batch cook all these freezer meals. Idea number 8 is to batch cook for the week only. So this is a little bit different. It's not really utilizing the freezer like in batching freezer meals. But when you're batch cooking for the week, there are a lot of people, especially on social media, that talk about this. But it's like focusing on picking a dinner for the week. And sometimes it's a few different dinners that you're kind of rotating through the week. Sometimes people just make one dinner and then they batch it and they prep it for the whole week. And that's the same thing they eat all like every night for the whole week. So it just depends on what you like to do, what your goals are, what your lifestyle is. But this is basically going and taking one day to cook all of your meals for the whole week. And then you store them in the fridge and you pull them out when you need them each night, where it's pre cooked and all you have to do is heat it up. So it's kind of like taking those, pre-made freezer meals that people would buy in like bulk and like a lean cuisine almost. It's like taking those freezer meals and you're just basically reheating what is already cooked. And that's what you're doing at home. So when you are thinking about batch cooking for the week, I mean, technically you can put these in the freezer, but a lot of times when people are doing this, they're just batch cooking for the week. They throw them in the fridge and then they just reheat them throughout the week. And then they do the same process over on the next week and they just repeat this process. So that is definitely an option if that is something that sounds interesting to you. The idea number 9 is to batch prep for the week. So many of these things are similar to each other, but they're just a little bit different. So, batch prepping for the week is basically understanding all of the meals that you have and then prepping all of the ingredients for each meal, but not cooking it. So, you can kind of think about this like HelloFresh, but you're doing it at home. So if you are going to have, a steak with asparagus and, mashed potatoes on Monday night, then you're going to prep all that. So you're going to make sure your steak is there. If you need to marinate it, you can get it in a marinade or prep the marinade beforehand. You can do your clean your asparagus, wash it, get it prepped. So all you have to do is cook it when the time comes. You can wash your potatoes. Sometimes you even dice potatoes ahead of time and put them in cold water, put them in the fridge so they're ready to go. And so all of your ingredients are ready. So you prep all of the ingredients for the meal, but you don't cook it. You just put it in the fridge and you store it. And you do this for every meal for the week. And then when it comes time to actually making the meal, you have everything prepped. You just have to pull it out and cook it. So it's up to you how you want to mix and match all of these different ideas. And there are so many different things that you can do. You can pick one and just focus on that. You can just keep it super simple. You could pull all these different ideas in, test them out, see what you like. But there are so many different ways that we can build our meal planning routine, but we need to focus on the default routine first so that we get that really hammered in and that becomes our go to. And then we can build on it and customize it to work it for us using all these different methods. And I didn't even talk about all the different methods out there. Like I just covered some of them. So there are so many different things that we can do in our meal planning routines to make it fun, make it work for us, and to stop the cycle of our meal times being really daunting because as long as we're planning ahead, we can make this super seamless. It just takes a little bit of intentionality and a little bit of effort on the front end, and then the rest of your week is going to go so much smoother. So you can decide what works best for you. There are a lot of ideas that I just threw out at you. But I kind of gave you a little bit of an idea of what we do in our house, and that's what works really well for us. But I have tried all of these different things, and we have just found what works best for us. That doesn't mean any of the other things are bad. It just means that that's not what's working for us right now in this season of life. And if I need to later on, I might switch back to some of those things. But I have my foundational routine in place that I can always fall back to that. And it will still keep me on track without focusing on all the other little things. I can just add the other little things if I think that that's going to make things a little bit easier. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I definitely don't want to confuse you. I want to encourage you, not overwhelm you. But I will do a quick recap for you of those 9 ideas to help you customize your meal planning routine while keeping it simple. So, number one is to just focus on your foundational routine and keep it simple. So, like I said, you can go to episode 4 for the 12 steps, and then episode 47 is going to walk you step by step through my routine, and then you can customize it to make it your own if you want to do that. Idea number 2 is to order online and utilize Instacart or grocery pickup for your grocery shopping. Number 3 is to focus on themed meal nights when you're planning out your menu plan for the week. Idea number 4 is to focus on a chop once method to help you throughout the week. Number 5 is to focus on doubled meals or doubled ingredients and stick those things in the freezer for quick access later on. Idea number 6 is to prep quick go to lunches or snacks. So when you get home from grocery shopping, you're just focusing on prepping your lunches and snacks for the week. Idea number 7 is to take a day and batch cook freezer meals. Idea number 8 is to take a day and batch cook your meals for the week. That's full prepped and cooked for the week. And then idea number 9 is to just prep all your meals for the week. So this is where you prep all of the ingredients for each meal, but they're not actually cooked yet. So this is like the HelloFresh at home. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope it helps you to kind of create your own customized meal planning routine. But like I said, if it's overwhelming, always just go back to that foundational routine to keep it super simple so that you can stay consistent with it and you can always play with your routine later. So I hope you have fun with it, and I will catch you back here on the next episode.
Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.